Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Victor again with my Ioniq 5. Today's video is about how hot weather charging can cause significant projected range loss. So I recently came across a scenario where I saw a projected 62-mile range loss with air conditioning on. Personally, that's the worst projected range loss that I have seen to date. Even worse than the coldest winter day where I had the heat turned on. But I think there were some extra factors in play, so what I want to do for this video is give you guys the context of how it happened, plus explore some ideas that may help decrease this loss. So here are the facts first. It was a very hot day in Philadelphia. The car was registering 92 degrees Fahrenheit for most of the day. I was seeing pretty typical 5 to 10 mile range loss with the AC on during my workday. So I finished work and I decided to stop by the charging station before going to pick up my son. I arrived with 30% state of charge. I stayed in the car with the AC on and my ventilated seat on. I've stayed in the car for most of my charging sessions to date, and with the recent warmer weather, I've been running the AC with no ill effects. The car's front vents definitely opened up, and I did hear that vacuum-like sound while inside the car. So the battery cooling system was definitely running. I charged from 30% to 81% in about 22 minutes, and then I left the charging station. Then I proceeded to drive a total of 2.5 miles in traffic light stop and go conditions between picking up my son and getting us back home. It was during this 2.5 mile drive where I noticed the car's display showing around 200 miles of range at 81% state of charge, which did not seem right to me. So I checked the EV page and I saw the 62-mile projected range loss for air conditioning usage. Next will be some photos of what I saw. This is directly after pulling into the driveway after that first charge session. And this one is about 1 hour later. I came back out of the house just to check on the car. This one was about 7 hours later. At this point, the sun is starting to set. Temperatures are starting to decline outside. This next one is just the next morning. Obviously, outside temperatures are much cooler. Everything is back to normal. Here is a few days later with the car registering similar temperatures outside, but I have not charged the car recently in this photo. This next one here is just after charging from a different charge session, and you'll see that range hit as well. So let's jump into a chart. You'll see the very first line item, 92 degrees Fahrenheit. I just pulled into the driveway. Charging was about 20 minutes before this, but I was seeing the same exact numbers right after charging. Next, we have 107 degrees. This was 1 hour after charging. The car was just sitting in the driveway, just baking in the sun. Then 7 hours later, at this point, the sun is starting to set. The car still has not moved, but clearly things are starting to cool down. Then we have the next morning. Clearly, the car has cooled down. It had a chance to sit overnight in the driveway. Outside temperatures are much cooler. And then we have this next one, 97 degrees. The car has not moved for 5 hours. It has been sitting in the driveway. Now this is a different day. This one, the car has not been recently charged. So you can see how charging really heats up that battery versus if the car were just sitting in the driveway in hot weather. This last one, 81 degrees Fahrenheit outside, is a different day, completely different charge session. I had stayed in the car with the AC running until I heard the fan kick on, so then I turned the climate system off and I got out of the car, at which point it proceeded to charge for about another 10 minutes with everything off. I climbed back in and this is what I saw. So not quite as bad as that really hot day, but still not great. So something to note from this chart is the battery percentage changes. It drops from 81% to 80% because I drove 2.5 miles with really bad efficiency. I'm blaming this on the hot battery because even in typical stop and go traffic, it's never this bad for me. But you'll see that it recovers back up to 82% after it's had a chance to cool down. So that was interesting. I'm borrowing this next portion from Bjorn Nyland, who makes really good data-driven videos on YouTube. He did one on the Ioniq 5, testing out the heater while charging and seeing the effects that it had on the battery. At the end of it, he believed that his test results showed the Ioniq 5 was prioritizing cabin temperature over maintaining battery temperature if the climate system was turned on. He only tested in the winter, but I'm taking a guess here that it translates similarly in hot weather conditions, meaning if we turn on the climate system while the car is charging, we are telling the car to prioritize keeping us cool over cooling the battery. Now, even if this isn't true, at the very least, the car is diverting energy to cool the cabin that otherwise could be devoted to cooling the battery if we have the climate system on. Now, during my charge sessions and afterwards, I didn't notice any noticeable loss in power. No warning lights of any kind came on, so it appears that the battery was still probably within standard operating temperatures. Again, I don't have a battery monitor to actually see the readings or the numbers, so I don't know for a fact, but that's my guess. But let's go over the simple facts again. I charged the car on a day where the reading outside was above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I only drove the car 2.5 miles at very slow speeds, or even completely stopped at lights. Then I parked the car in the driveway where it baked in direct sunlight, and the car showed a projected range loss of 62 miles just for air conditioning usage. Now, my fear is that this could be replicated on long summer road trips. Let's say the battery isn't able to cool down. You could theoretically charge the car and only have a 200 mile total range. So let's say you drive that 200 or so mile range, and now all of a sudden you need to charge again, but the battery has not cooled down. Then you're going to be stuck in this endless loop of 200 mile total range. If you had a route mapped out originally where you were hoping to get more than 200 miles between charging, now you either won't make it or you're going to have some major range anxiety trying to get there. My hope is that highway speed airflow is able to cool down the battery quickly so that this is not the case and is not an issue. So I'm hoping you guys can help on this one. For those of you that have done a lot of hot weather charging and hot weather road tripping, have you seen this kind of projected range loss immediately after charging? And if so, has it returned to typical projected range loss quickly after getting up to highway speeds? Personally, I'm probably going to stop sitting in the car while charging when it's hot outside. I'll probably just pop into the local store and enjoy their air conditioning, or I'll have to start charging later in the evening when the sun has set. Usually the car goes right back onto the driveway after charging, so while range loss isn't really an issue, I do know that the battery isn't going to have a good chance to really cool down from proper airflow. And one of the other things that I've seen is that heat is supposed to be one of the factors with battery degradation. So if I can avoid it, why not? So anyways, really looking forward to hearing from some of you that have done a lot of hot weather charging and hot weather road tripping. What have you guys seen? Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.